The Imperial Inquisitorius is purposefully one of the most secretive and mysterious organizations in Star Wars. Delilah Dawson's upcoming book, Inquisitor Rise of the Red Blade, doesn't answer every question I've ever had about the Jedi Hunters, but it's easily our best look at the group so far. The book comes out on July 18th, but I've had a chance to read it early, so here are my spoiler-free thoughts. Let me set the stage a little bit. I often bring up the fact that I prefer my Star Wars books to focus on a larger cast of characters. That's why I've been loving the High Republic stuff so much. The Star Wars books from 2014 to 2021 or so were smaller and more personal, and I enjoyed them well enough. I especially loved Thrawn and Phasma because I felt like I was learning not just about a specific character, but part of the Star Wars universe as well. I'm happy to say that's how Inquisitor Rise of the Red Blade felt to me, because it is a very personal story about a very specific character, and yet Delilah Dawson strikes a fantastic balance of exploring who that character is and why she fell, with some exciting world building surrounding the Clone Wars and the Inquisitorius. The story follows Ascat Akaris, an Inquisitor that, until now, has only appeared in 2 issues of the Charles Soule Darth Vader comic run. We get to follow her journey from Padawan to Jedi Knight to Inquisitor, and I would say it exceeded my expectations. I figured it was a guarantee we would learn new details about the Inquisitorius, and we do, but I was unprepared to revisit the Clone Wars in such a new and interesting way. Most stories we have seen in that era follow Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ahsoka Tano, or any number of Jedi Masters that have significant plot armor. Sure, we occasionally meet someone like I'm a Gundai, may he rest in peace, but for the most part, we know our heroes are safe. From the start of this novel, we know the opposite is true. We know where Ascat's story is headed, we know how it ends, and we know it's a tragedy. Familiar characters come in and out of the story, but for the most part, we are experiencing the Clone Wars through the eyes of a cast of Jedi who don't have plot armor. Dawson takes the time to present the devastation of the Battle of Geonosis in ways I hadn't considered before. We experience the desperation of the Jedi Order as more and more Masters and Knights fall, and they have to replenish their ranks with Padawans who simply are not ready, which is consistent with characters like Nadar Veb in the episode Lair of Grievous. It's all stuff I was familiar with from watching the Clone Wars series, but the way this book takes its time to let the reader sit in the tragedy and violence of the conflict was something I loved. Ascat was a character that worked very well for me. I'll say up front, it's for personal reasons. I'm sure everyone will relate to her differently, but I saw a lot of myself and my upbringing in her. I want to make it clear that I think faith and spirituality are good. I think the Jedi Order and their ideals are good. Without question, they are the good guys of this book and the Star Wars universe, but I've also experienced the way faith and spirituality can be twisted by institutions, how it can weaponize dogma into shame and then offer nothing but hollow platitudes when you have questions as a child. I could completely understand her frustrations with some of the shortcomings of her master, and then her excitement at the prospect of gaining even a little bit of freedom as a Jedi Knight. I don't want to dig into my personal stuff too deeply, but basically, I believe that faith, spirituality, religion, or whatever you want to call it, is not a one-size-fits-all thing. I believe the same is true of the Jedi. It's another reason I love the High Republic era, seeing a more flexible Jedi Order allowing for multiple views on the Force instead of a more strict adherence to dogma. Inquisitor Rise of the Red Blade is a good contrast to that era of the Jedi. I absolutely think that's on purpose. I also want to make it clear this isn't some anti-Jedi or anti-religion book. I related to Ascat's experience in the Order, but there are also examples of very good Jedi Master and Padawan relationships. The book shows the good potential of the Jedi while also illustrating the same shortcomings of the institutionalized Order that the prequel films do. Despite their flaws, the Jedi are clearly the good guys, as they always have been, especially when compared to the Inquisitorius and the dark side. Digging into their selfish structures, squabbling amongst themselves for dominance, it really is sad seeing Ascat being blind to what support she did have within the Jedi in favor of isolation and power. And when power and dominance is the way of life you choose, well, there's always a bigger fish. I should also point out that me personally relating to Ascat as a character only goes so far, because she is a cautionary tale. She lets her frustrations with her institution fester and grow. I eventually got to the point where, to quote Tech from The Bad Batch, I understood her, but I certainly did not agree with her. But her journey felt believable. A little nudge towards the dark side here, a little push there. The escalation of her violence made complete sense and illustrated the slippery slope of the Clone Wars and the brilliance of of Palpatine's plan. How could the Jedi not lose their way in the midst of so much conflict? Iskat takes her first life in the defense of others. Some deaths are accidents, some she maybe could have prevented, and it gets worse and worse. I enjoyed her story, which is good because it is the backbone of the book, but I also loved some of the answers to some larger questions we got, like how did Inquisitors survive Order 66? What was their life like in the aftermath of the Clone Wars? Stuff like that. Stuff that gave me goosebumps to read. I remember when it was announced Delilah Dawson was writing a book about the unnamed Inquisitor from the Darth Vader comics, and my immediate thought was, perfect. Like I said, I really enjoyed Phasma, but Dawson has also said in interviews that she enjoys writing violent women, and that is a pretty good description of this book. If you've been itching to learn more about the Inquisitorius, I think this book is a no-brainer. If you also like violent women, you're gonna get plenty of that here. If you want an even more mature take on the Clone Wars than the animated series provided, which I already think has plenty of maturity baked in, that was one of my favorite aspects of the novel. If you're interested in reading it, pre-orders are available now, including the audiobook on Audible. If you want to try out the audiobook for free, you can by following the link in the description or by visiting www.audibletrial.com/Star Wars Explained. Signing up for a free trial will give you a credit for one free audiobook, which you can use to pre-order Inquisitor Rise of the Red Blade right now. Or you can pick up just about any other Star Wars book you can think of. The Star Wars audiobooks are great, including sound effects and music, so it's like listening to a movie. If you sign up for a free trial with our link, you'll get one free audiobook and you'll be supporting the channel when you do. But that's it for today. I'll be covering plenty of topics from this book once it's out. Until then, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram, and consider checking out our Patreon page. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.